The annual Sanders family reunion always feels like walking into a lion's den wearing a dress made of raw meat. This year, though, I came prepared. Or at least that's what I kept telling myself as I stood in front of the mahogany doors of my brother's oversized mansion, clutching an invitation that would soon change everything. I'm Annalise, and until 6 months ago, I owned a small art gallery in downtown Seattle. Now I'm that family member everyone whispers about. You know, the cautionary tale parents use to warn their kids about following their dreams. Before we continue, quick question. Where has this story found you today? Let us know your location in the comments below. Now, let's continue. Well, look who finally showed up! My cousin Callie's voice cut through the evening air like nails on a chalkboard. She stood in the doorway, martini in hand, wearing that fake smile I'd grown to hate. We were just talking about your situation. Of course they were. I forced a smile and stepped inside, immediately assaulted by the sounds of forced laughter and judgmental whispers. The foyer was packed with relatives, all dressed like they were attending a country club gathering rather than a family reunion. Annalise! My brother Damien's booming voice carried across the room. Come here, sis. Tell everyone about your new job at the coffee shop. I wasn't working at a coffee shop. I was teaching art classes part-time while working on my new collection, but they didn't need to know that. Not yet. Actually, I started, but my mother June appeared, cutting me off with a too-tight hug that smelled of expensive perfume and disappointment. Darling, you look tired, she said, holding me at arm's length. Have you considered taking that position at Uncle Robert's firm? He's still willing to. Mom, I'm fine. I extracted myself from her grip, reaching for a glass of wine from a passing server. Fine? Callie snorted. Is that what we're calling it now? Your gallery closed, Mark left you, and you're living in that tiny apartment painting pictures nobody wants to buy. The room grew quiet, and I could feel every eye on me. My hand tightened around the wine glass as Damien chimed in. Come on, Anna. It's time to grow up. Not everyone gets to be a famous artist. He gestured around his massive living room. This is what success looks like. Real success. I took a long sip of wine, letting the familiar burn of humiliation wash over me. But this time, something was different. The weight of the invitation in my purse felt like a secret weapon. Speaking of success, I said carefully, I got an interesting call last week. Oh God, Callie rolled her eyes. Please don't tell us you're opening another gallery. Actually, I pulled out the elegant envelope. I've been invited to showcase my work in Tokyo at the Shimizu Contemporary. The silence that followed was delicious. Damien's smug smile faltered slightly. The what? My mother asked, clearly trying to maintain her composure. Only one of the most prestigious contemporary art galleries in Asia, I said, watching their faces. They want to feature my new collection, solo exhibition. That's unexpected, Damien managed, his voice tight. Callie grabbed the invitation from my hands, her eyes scanning the gold-embossed text. This has to be some kind of mistake. No mistake. I took another sip of wine, savoring the moment. The opening's in 3 months. You're all invited, of course. My mother's face did that thing where she's trying to decide whether to be proud or worried about potential embarrassment. Darling, are you sure about this? After what happened with the gallery? Oh, I'm sure. I smiled, thinking about the collection taking shape in my studio. Every canvas was a story, every brushstroke a response to years of their condescension. I wouldn't miss this opportunity for the world, and I really hope you'll all be there. We wouldn't miss it, Damien said, his tone suggesting he was already planning how to use my inevitable failure as future reunion fodder. Right, everyone? The murmurs of agreement around the room were hesitant, tinged with mockery. They thought they knew what was coming. Another chance to shake their heads at poor, deluded Annalise. My phone buzzed with a text from Antonio, the curator. Just confirmed. 3 major critics attending opening night. Everything on track. I smiled at my phone, then at my family, who were already turning away, dismissing my news as another pipe dream. They had no idea what was coming. Each of them would be immortalized in my new collection, their judgments and betrayals transformed into something beautiful and damning. Well, I raised my glass. Here's to family. As they clinked glasses, already moving on to gossip about Cousin Sarah's latest divorce, I felt a strange peace settle over me. In 3 months, these same people would stand in front of my canvases and see themselves reflected back in ways they never expected. Their smugness would be their undoing, and my art would be my revenge. I just had to wait for the perfect moment to strike. The first time I met Antonio, I was sitting in a dingy coffee shop, sketching angry lines across a worn notebook. It was 2 weeks before the family reunion, and I'd just gotten off another condescending phone call with my mother. "That empty chair," a voice said, startling me. "May I?" I looked up to find a well-dressed man gesturing to the seat across from me. The cafe was nearly empty, which made his request odd. "Sure," I said, closing my notebook. "No, please," he said, sitting down. "Keep drawing. Those lines, they speak of something deeper than anger, don't they?" I studied him carefully. "You're an artist?" "A curator." He smiled, extending his hand. "Antonio, I was actually at your gallery several times before it closed. Your work left quite an impression." My chest tightened. "That gallery feels like a lifetime ago." "Perhaps." He pulled out his phone, showing me images of familiar paintings. My paintings. But these still speak volumes, especially this one. It was my self-portrait, the one that hung in the back room. Dark, twisted figures reached from the shadows, trying to drag the subject down while she reached toward a light they couldn't see. "That piece never sold," I said quietly, "because it wasn't for sale. It was your story." Antonio leaned forward. "Tell me, Annalise, are you still painting?" "How do you know my name?" "I make it my business to know artists who matter." He set his phone down. "I'm putting together an exhibition in Tokyo. Contemporary pieces focusing on family dynamics, personal transformation. Your work would fit perfectly." I laughed, but it came out bitter. "My family thinks I should give up art altogether. Get a real job." "Ah." Antonio's eyes sparkled. "And what do you think about that?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from my ex-husband. "Heard about the gallery. Told you it was a mistake. Hope you're finally seeing reason." I showed Antonio the message. "That's what everyone in my life thinks. That I'm unreasonable for pursuing art. Then they don't understand art's true power." He pulled out a business card. "Pain, betrayal, redemption. These emotions create the most compelling works. Your gallery pieces showed promise, but they were safe. What would you create if you stopped being safe?" My hand trembled slightly as I took his card. "What exactly are you suggesting? 3 months, 10 pieces, complete creative freedom." He gestured to my notebook. "Those angry lines? Transform them. Show the world what happens when they try to cage an artist's spirit." "You haven't seen my new work," I protested. "How do you know?" "I know enough." He stood up, straightening his jacket. "The exhibition opens in December. Your family, they doubt you?" I nodded. "Then invite them. Let them see themselves through your eyes." He smiled, but it wasn't entirely kind. Sometimes the best revenge is forcing people to confront their own reflection. After he left, I sat there for hours, sketching frantically. Images poured out. My mother's disapproving frown transformed into a Baroque mask of propriety. Damien's success worship depicted as a golden noose. Callie's fake sympathy twisted into thorned roses. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Selah, my oldest friend. "Hey, stranger, haven't heard from you in weeks. You okay?" I called her immediately. "Selah, I need your honest opinion. Am I crazy for still trying to make it as an artist? What brought this on?" Her voice was concerned. "Did your family say something again?" "No. Well, yes, but..." I explained about Antonio and the exhibition offer. "Holy shit, Anna!" Selah's excitement was contagious. "The Shimizu Contemporary? That's huge! But what if they're right? What if I'm just setting myself up for another failure?" Listen to me. Sayla's voice turned serious. Your gallery didn't fail because you're a bad artist. It failed because you were trying to create what you thought people wanted to see. When was the last time you painted something just for you? I looked down at my sketches, raw, angry, honest. I think I'm about to. Then do it. Show them all what you're capable of. She paused. Just promise me one thing. What? Don't hold back. Not this time. That night, I emailed Antonio my acceptance and ordered new canvases. As I cleared space in my small studio apartment, I found my old wedding photo tucked behind some boxes. Mark's smiling face looked back at me, his arm around my shoulders, both of us standing in front of my first gallery opening. You'll never make it in the art world, he'd said the night he left. You're just not good enough. I ripped the photo in half and pinned it to my inspiration board. Below it, I wrote, "Watch me." The next morning, I started painting. Each stroke felt like breaking free from chains I hadn't even realized I was wearing. For the first time in years, I wasn't creating art to please others or prove something. I was creating art to set myself free, and if it burned some bridges along the way, well, that was just part of the masterpiece. Paint splattered across the canvas like blood, dark reds mixing with deep purples. I'd been working for 6 hours straight when the knock came at my door. The sound made me jump, smearing crimson across what was supposed to be my mother's perfectly coiffed hair in the portrait. Annalise? Darling, are you home? Speaking of the devil, I looked down at my paint-covered clothes and sighed. Coming, Mom. I opened the door to find June standing there in her designer suit, looking completely out of place in my apartment building's dingy hallway. Her eyes widened at my appearance. Oh, sweetheart. She pushed past me into the apartment. You're not still... She trailed off as she saw the canvases. 7 of them lined the walls, each one larger than the last. The newest one, still wet, showed a woman in a garden party dress, her face a mask of propriety while serpents coiled around her ankles. What is this? Her voice was barely a whisper. My new collection. I wiped my hands on my already stained jeans. For Tokyo. She moved closer to the serpent painting, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. This is me, isn't it? What gave it away? The pearls or the passive-aggressive smile? Annalise! She spun to face me. Is this what you're planning to show? These angry paintings? I gestured to the other pieces. Take a look around, Mom. Tell me what you see. She did, slowly walking the perimeter of my small living room. There was Damien, crowned in fool's gold. Callie, drowning in a sea of champagne and fake tears. My ex-husband, a puppet master with broken strings. This isn't art, she said finally. This is revenge. Why can't it be both? Because I raised you better than this. She grabbed my arm. Listen to me. It's not too late to cancel. I'll call Antonio myself. I jerked away from her. You know Antonio? Everyone in the art world knows Antonio. She smoothed her jacket, a nervous habit I'd captured perfectly in the painting. He's brilliant, but he can be cruel. He likes to create spectacles. Like showcasing the failed artist daughter of June Watts? That's not fair. No? I picked up my brush again, turning to the portrait. Where were you when my gallery was failing? When Mark left? When I needed someone to believe in me? I was trying to protect you. Her voice cracked. This world, it's brutal, Annalise. I watched your father chase his dreams until they destroyed him. Dad died of cancer, Mom, not from being an artist. He died broke and unknown. She touched the serpent painting gently. Is that what you want? I want to be heard. I started fixing the smeared hair in the portrait. For once in my life, I want people to see the truth. And what truth is that? I turned to her, brush pointed like a weapon. That you were all so busy protecting me from failure that you became the reason I failed. Silence filled the apartment, broken only by the distant sound of traffic and the drip of paint hitting the floor. My mother stared at the portrait of herself, something unreadable crossing her face. "The technique is beautiful," she said finally. "You've improved." Don't what? Don't try to make this okay." I set down the brush. "You can't fix this with compliments and concern anymore." She reached into her purse, pulling out a familiar business card. "Antonio sent me this. Asked me if I wanted to be a special guest at the opening." My stomach dropped. "And I haven't decided yet." She placed the card on my paint-splattered table. "But I want you to think about something. After you show these, after you get your revenge, what then? Where does this path lead?" "To freedom," I said, but my voice wavered. She walked to the door, pausing with her hand on the knob. "Just remember, darling, the thing about burning bridges is that you can end up stranded on the wrong side." After she left, I stared at the portrait for a long time. The serpents seemed to move in the fading light, writhing around the painted figure's ankles. But now I noticed something else, the way her hands reached out, as if trying to catch something falling. My phone buzzed with a text from Antonio. "How's the collection coming? Remember, pain makes the best art." I looked at my mother's portrait again, then at the blank canvas waiting in the corner. 8 down, 2 to go. The final pieces would be the hardest, self-portraits that showed not just my anger, but my transformation. Because my mother was wrong about one thing. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about breaking free from the cage they'd all helped build around me, bar by golden bar. I picked up my brush and started on the 8th canvas. This time, when I painted the serpents, I gave them wings. "You're actually going through with this?" Selah sat cross-legged on my paint-splattered floor, surrounded by bubble wrap and packing materials. 2 weeks before the Tokyo exhibition, and my apartment looked like a war zone. "Help me wrap this one," I said, carefully lifting the portrait of Damien. "And yes, I'm going through with it. Your brother's going to lose his mind when he sees this." She ran her fingers along the frame. "The golden noose is a bit on the nose, don't you think?" My phone rang, Damien's name flashing on the screen. "Speaking of the devil." "Put it on speaker," Selah whispered, grinning. I answered. "Hey, big brother." "Anna, just calling to finalize our Tokyo plans." His voice dripped with fake enthusiasm. "We've booked the presidential suite at the Park Hyatt. You know, that hotel from Lost in Translation?" "That's nice." "Callie and I were thinking we could take you out for dinner after your little show. Help you process things." Selah made a gagging motion. I threw a piece of bubble wrap at her. "Process things? Well, you know," he chuckled. "When things don't go quite as planned, it's good to have family around. Remember your first gallery opening?" My hands clenched. "Actually, Damien, I'll be busy that night. The gallery's hosting a private reception for collectors and critics." "Critics?" He laughed. "Come on, sis. Let's be realistic here. 3 major critics confirmed their attendance last week." I started wrapping his portrait with perhaps more force than necessary. Plus, representatives from galleries in Paris and New York. The line went quiet for a moment. "Mom mentioned your new work is different." "You could say that." "Anna, listen." His voice took on that patronizing tone I'd captured perfectly in oils and acrylics. "It's not too late to back out. No one would blame you. We all know how sensitive you can be." Selah mouthed asshole at the phone. "Thanks for your concern," I said, keeping my voice steady. "But I think you'll find I'm not as sensitive as you remember. See you in Tokyo, brother dear." I hung up before he could respond. "God, what a jerk," Selah said, helping me secure the wrapped canvas. "I can't wait to see his face when he realizes what you've done." 9 down, I said, looking at the final blank canvas in the corner. 1 to go. The self-portrait? Selah stood, stretching. "What are you planning for that one?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Antonio. "Final piece deadline in 3 days. Make it count." He's been pushing for something specific, I admitted. Something that ties the whole collection together. And I walked to my sketches pinned on the wall. I keep coming back to this idea. The rough drawing showed a woman emerging from a chrysalis made of broken picture frames and shattered expectations. Around her, the faces of my family watched from the shadows, their expressions a mix of horror and recognition. "It's perfect," Selah said softly. "But can you finish it in time?" I picked up my brush. "I have to. I've already arranged the shipping for everything else. This is the keystone. Then I'll leave you to it." She hugged me tight. "Just remember to eat something occasionally, okay?" After she left, I stared at the blank canvas for a long time. My phone kept buzzing. Texts from Callie about Tokyo restaurant recommendations. Messages from my mother about reconsidering the tone of my work. Even one from Mark asking if the rumors about the exhibition were true. I ignored them all and started painting. Hours blurred together. I forgot to eat, forgot to sleep. The woman in the painting took shape, her emergence violent and beautiful. I painted through sunrise and sunset, through doubt and determination. On the third day, as I was adding the final highlights, Antonio called. "Is it finished?" "Just about." I stepped back, studying the piece. "It's different from what we discussed." "Different how?" "Come see for yourself." 20 minutes later, he stood in my studio, staring at the still wet canvas. The woman in the painting wasn't just emerging, she was exploding from her chrysalis, fragments of her old life becoming wings of fire and gold. The watching faces weren't horrified anymore. They were transfixed, caught between judgment and awe. "This," Antonio said finally, "is exactly what I was hoping for." "Really? Because you seemed pretty set on the whole revenge angle," he smiled. "Revenge got you started. But this?" He gestured to the painting. "This is transformation. This is what will make them remember. And if they hate it, then they'll hate it memorably." He pulled out his phone. "I'm sending the shipping company over tomorrow morning. Be ready." After he left, I sat alone in my apartment, surrounded by empty spaces where my paintings had been. In 2 weeks, they would all hang in Tokyo, my private pain made public, my secret thoughts revealed in color and light. I looked at my phone, at all the unopened messages from my family. For the first time in years, I felt ready to face them. Let them come to Tokyo. Let them see what they helped create. I was done being afraid. Tokyo hit me like a fever dream. The neon lights, the endless streams of people, the humid air thick with anticipation. Or maybe that was just my anxiety talking. I stood in the gallery space, watching as workers carefully unpacked my paintings. "Careful with that one," I called out as they lifted Callie's portrait. "The frame is still. Everything is under control, Annalise." Antonio appeared beside me, clipboard in hand. This isn't their first exhibition. A crash from the back room made us both jump. One of the workers emerged, looking sheepish. "Sorry, just dropped an empty crate." I pressed my hands to my temples. 2 days? The opening is in 2 days, and nothing is ready. Actually, Antonio consulted his clipboard. "We're ahead of schedule, which means you have time to deal with that." He pointed to the entrance, where my mother stood in a perfectly tailored suit, looking lost. "Mom?" I walked over. "The opening isn't until Friday." I know." She glanced around the space. "I thought maybe we could talk before everyone else arrives." Antonio caught my eye and nodded. "Take her to the cafe across the street. We've got things handled here." The cafe was tiny, with windows that looked out over the bustling Shibuya streets. My mother stirred her green tea endlessly, avoiding my gaze. "So," I said finally, "you're early." I couldn't wait. She looked up. I needed to see them again, the paintings. "And? They're beautiful." Her voice cracked slightly. "Terrible and beautiful, like watching a car crash in slow motion." "Mom?" "No, let me finish." She reached into her bag, pulling out a worn sketchbook. "Do you remember this?" I recognized it immediately. My old portfolio from high school. "You were so talented, even then." She opened it to a particular page, a portrait of her from years ago, smiling and natural. This was before Dad died, before I got scared. She pushed the sketchbook toward me. I thought I was protecting you. From poverty, from disappointment, from ending up like Dad? Happy? Your father wasn't happy at the end, Annalise. She closed the sketchbook. He was frustrated, bitter. The art world had chewed him up and spat him out. So you decided to chew me up first? The words came out sharper than I intended. A waiter arrived with our pastries, giving us both a moment to compose ourselves. Ah, I deserved that, my mother said finally. I deserved all of it. The serpents, the mask, everything in that painting. Then why are you here? Because, she took a deep breath, because I want to stand beside you at the opening. Not as the woman in your painting, but as your mother, if you'll let me. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Damien. Just landed. Callie's flight delayed. Where's the nearest bar to the gallery? Need a drink before seeing your latest endeavor. Let me guess, my mother said, watching my face. Your brother's being himself? I showed her the text. She read it and actually rolled her eyes. Something I'd never seen her do before. You know, she said, your portrait of him, the one with the fool's gold crown? It's perfect. He always was his own biggest fan. I nearly choked on my tea. Did you just agree with me about Damien? I'm capable of growth. She smiled slightly. The question is, are you? What do you mean? These paintings. They're your way of breaking free. But freedom means different things to different people. She reached across the table, taking my hand. Sometimes it means knowing when to let go of the anger, even when it's justified. My phone buzzed again. Antonio. Critics arriving early for preview. Need you back here. I have to go, I said, standing. The critics? I know. She stood too, straightening her jacket. Just think about what I said. And Annalise? She caught my arm as I turned to leave. Whatever happens at the opening, remember, you already won. You finished the collection. You made it to Tokyo. Everything else is just fool's gold? She laughed, a real laugh, not her usual polite titter. Exactly. Back at the gallery, the lights were being tested, casting dramatic shadows across my paintings. Antonio was directing the final placements, arguing in rapid Japanese with the lighting technician. Move that spot 2 degrees left, he called out. We need the serpents to look like they're moving. I watched as the light shifted, bringing my mother's portrait to life. The serpents did seem to move now, but somehow they looked less threatening than before. Maybe it was the conversation with my mother, or maybe it was just the Tokyo air, but something had shifted. Perfect, Antonio said, coming to stand beside me. Now, are you ready to face the critics? I thought about my mother's words, about letting go of anger, about different kinds of freedom. Yes, I said. I'm ready for whatever comes next. The gallery lights dimmed and rose again, making the gold leaf in my paintings glitter like stars, like promises, like possibilities. Opening night arrived with the subtlety of a thunderstorm. I stood in the gallery's entrance, wearing a black dress that cost more than a month's rent, watching as Tokyo's art elite mingled with my family's particular brand of dysfunction. Darling! Callie's voice carried across the space. This is different from your usual work. She stood before her own portrait, champagne glass trembling slightly in her hand. In the painting, she was drowning in a sea of her own tears, each droplet containing a reflection of her fake smiles. You always said I should try new things, I replied sweetly. Is that supposed to be me? She leaned closer. The resemblance is uncanny? Antonio appeared beside us. That's what the critics are saying. Excuse me, but I need to borrow the artist. The reviewer from Art Forum wants a word. Before he could lead me away, Damien's voice boomed through the gallery. Well, well, little sister, you've really outdone yourself this time. He stood in front of his portrait, his real face almost as red as the painted fool's gold crown. Several critics nearby turned to watch the interaction, their notepads ready. "I'm glad you could make it," I said, keeping my voice level. "What do you think of the collection?" "What do I think?" He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "I think you've lost your mind. Is this what you've been working on? Turning your family into monsters?" "No," I stepped closer. "I just painted what I saw." A murmur went through the growing crowd. From the corner of my eye, I saw my mother enter the gallery, stopping short at the scene unfolding. "What you saw?" Damien gestured wildly at his portrait. "You painted me as some sort of corporate puppet." "Actually," a crisp voice cut in, "the technical term would be modern Midas, the gold that both crowns and condemns. Quite brilliant, really." We turned to find a woman in severe glasses studying the painting. "Mariko Sato, Art Forum," she introduced herself. "This piece perfectly captures the hollow nature of success worship in contemporary society. The way the crown appears to be melting, consuming the subject. Masterful." Damien's face went from red to purple. "This is ridiculous. You're all praising her for telling the truth?" My mother's voice made us all turn. She stood before her own portrait, head held high. "She's not wrong, Damien, about any of us." The gallery had gone quiet, the audience watching this family drama unfold like it was performance art. Maybe it was. "June," Damien started, but she cut him off. "No! Look at these paintings. Really look at them." She moved through the gallery, gesturing at each piece. "Every criticism, every disappointment, every moment we chose status over support, it's all here, and it's beautiful." "Beautiful?" Callie scoffed. "She's humiliated us." "No," Mariko interrupted again, scribbling in her notepad. "She's immortalized you. These aren't just family portraits. They're a study of modern relationships, of expectations versus reality. The technical skill is impressive, but the emotional depth, that's what makes these works significant." More critics gathered, discussing brush techniques and symbolism. I heard phrases like breakthrough artist and raw emotional honesty floating through the air. Antonio touched my elbow. "The final piece. It's time." He led the crowd to the back wall, where my self-portrait hung, the woman emerging from her chrysalis of broken expectations. Under the gallery lights, the gold leaf wings seemed to pulse with life. "This," Mariko said softly, "this is the key to everything. The transformation of pain into power. The emergence of authentic self despite societal constraints. Ms. Sanders, you've created something extraordinary here." I felt my mother's hand slip into mine. "Yes," she said, "she has." Damien and Callie stood apart from the crowd, their faces a mix of emotions I couldn't quite read. But for the first time, they were silent. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of interviews and congratulations. Collectors made offers. Gallery owners handed me cards. Critics praised the bold new voice in contemporary art. Near midnight, as the crowd thinned, I found myself alone with my mother in front of her portrait. The serpents seemed less threatening now, more like guides than tempters. "I was wrong," she said simply, "about so many things." "Mom!" "No, let me finish." She touched the canvas gently. "I thought I was protecting you from the art world. Instead, I became the thing you needed protection from. But this," she gestured around the gallery, "this is who you were always meant to be." Behind us, I could hear Antonio announcing the final sales figures to the remaining guests. Could hear Damien and Callie arguing quietly by the exit. Could hear the future rushing toward me like a bullet train. But in that moment, standing with my mother in front of the truth we'd both finally faced, I felt something shift. The anger that had driven my brushes, fueled my revenge, began to transform into something else. Something that looked a lot like freedom. The morning after the opening, I sat in my hotel room surrounded by newspapers. My face stared back at me from the art sections of 3 different publications, alongside glowing reviews of the exhibition. A knock at the door made me jump. "Room service!" But when I opened it, I found Damien standing there, looking uncomfortable in casual clothes, something I hadn't seen him wear in years. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside, watching as he took in the scattered newspapers and half-empty champagne bottle from last night. "Quite a splash you made," he said, picking up one of the papers. "Rising star transforms family drama into artistic triumph." Mom must be thrilled. "Why are you here, Damien?" He sat heavily in one of the plush chairs. "I couldn't sleep last night. Kept seeing that damn painting. The crown, the noose." He looked up at me. "Is that really how you see me?" "It's how you've been." "Been?" he repeated. Past tense? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Antonio. "Major collector wants to commission a series. 6 figures. Call me." Damien watched me read the message. "Good news?" "Could be." I set the phone down. "Why are you really here?" He stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the Tokyo skyline. "Remember when we were kids, before Dad got sick? You used to draw these ridiculous portraits of me as a superhero." "Super Damien," I said softly. "Defender of little sisters." "What happened to us, Anna?" "You happened. Success happened. The day you made partner at your firm, you told me I was wasting my life with hobby art." He winced. "I was trying to help." "No, you were trying to make me more like you." I joined him at the window. "The thing is, Damien, I never wanted to be like you. I just wanted you to be proud of me anyway." "The critics are proud enough." He attempted a joke, but it fell flat. "That's not the same thing." We stood in silence, watching the city wake up below us. Finally, he turned to face me. "The painting," he said. "The crown is melting, but the person underneath, he looks scared." "Because he is." I met his eyes. "Aren't you?" Before he could answer, another knock came at the door. This time it was Callie, her makeup perfect despite the early hour. "Oh," she said, seeing Damien. "I didn't realize." "Come in," I said. "We're having a family meeting, apparently." Callie perched on the edge of the bed, her designer purse clutched like a shield. "I saw the offers. For your paintings. They're impressive." "Don't strain yourself with compliments, Callie." "I'm serious." She pulled something from her purse, a creased piece of paper. "I found this in my old diary. Remember when we were 14? You drew this at my first ballet recital." The sketch showed a younger Callie in mid-leap, her face full of joy rather than calculation. I'd forgotten about it completely. "You were always able to see people," she said quietly. "Really see them. I guess I just didn't like what you saw in me." "The truth hurts," Damien muttered. "Says the man wearing golden handcuffs," Callie shot back. To my surprise, they both laughed. It was a fragile sound, but real. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my mother. "Breakfast in 20 minutes. The whole family. We need to talk." I showed them the message. "She's at the hotel restaurant already, isn't she?" Damien asked. "Probably color-coding her talking points," Callie added. "Some things never change," I said, but the words held less bitterness than before. We made our way down to the restaurant, this strange procession of newly humbled siblings. Mom sat at a corner table, perfectly poised as always. But something was different. She'd taken off her pearls. "My children," she said as we approached. "Sit, please." We did, falling into our usual seats, me across from Damien, Callie next to Mom. A waiter appeared with coffee and disappeared just as quickly. "I've been thinking," Mom began, "about legacy." "Mom," Damien started, but she held up a hand. "Your father's legacy wasn't his art or lack of success. It was his courage to keep creating, even when the world told him to stop." She looked at each of us in turn. "And my legacy? Well, thanks to your exhibition, Annalise, I can see it clearly now. I created a family of performers, always playing our parts, always hiding behind our masks." "The serpents," I whispered. "Yes." She smiled sadly. "But maybe it's time for a new portrait, one where we're all a little more real." My phone buzzed one final time. Antonio again. Gallery opening in Paris wants the whole collection. When can you start the next series? I looked at my family, really looked at them. Damien with his slightly loosened tie, Callie without her usual sharp smile, Mom missing her armor of pearls. All of us, finally seeing each other clearly. Soon, I typed back, but this time I'm painting something different. Something true, something healing, something free. The last day of the Tokyo exhibition dawned clear and bright. I stood in the empty gallery, saying goodbye to each painting before they were packed for Paris. Antonio worked quietly in the background, directing the art handlers. "Having second thoughts?" he asked, catching me touching the frame of my mother's portrait. "No, just..." I stepped back, realizing these aren't quite true anymore. That's the point of art, isn't it? To capture a moment in time. My phone buzzed. A message from Mark. "Saw the reviews? Congratulations. I was wrong about you." I deleted it without responding. Some chapters didn't need an epilogue. "Annalise?" My mother's voice echoed through the gallery. She wasn't alone. Damien, Callie, and Sela were with her. "What are you all doing here?" Sela grinned, holding up her camera. "Documenting the moment, obviously." "We wanted to see them one last time," Damien said, his tie conspicuously absent, "before they head to Paris without us." "About that." I exchanged glances with Antonio, who nodded. "I'm not sending all of them." "What do you mean?" Callie asked. I led them to the back room where a new canvas stood covered. "I've been working on something, a replacement for the Paris show. But these paintings are a set," my mother protested. "The critics all said, 'The critics don't get to decide anymore.'" I pulled off the cover. The new painting showed our family breakfast from that morning after the opening. But instead of masks and serpents and golden chains, it showed us as we really were. Imperfect, uncertain, but trying. Mom without her pearls, Damien with his guard down, Callie's genuine smile. In the background, fragments of the original portraits could be seen, but they were fading like old photographs. "This is..." Callie touched the canvas gently. "This is beautiful." "It's true," Damien said quietly. My mother stood silent, tears tracking down her cheeks. "The Paris gallery wants anger and revenge," Antonio said from behind us. "They want the sensational family drama that made headlines." "But that's not us anymore," I said. "At least, not all of us." "So what happens now?" Sela asked, snapping photos of our reactions. "Now?" I smiled. "Now I get to choose. The Paris gallery will take the collection as is, or they can have the new direction. Either way, I'm done letting other people decide what my art should be." "They'll take it," Antonio said confidently. "The new piece, it's stronger than revenge. It's redemption." Speaking of redemption, Damien cleared his throat. "I have something to show you." He pulled out his phone, showing me an email. "I'm stepping down as partner." "What?" We all spoke at once. "I'm opening my own firm, smaller, more focused on arts advocacy and creative rights." He looked at me. "If you're interested, I could use some help with the logo design." "Damien," Mom started, but he cut her off. "The crown was heavy, Mom. Time to take it off." Callie laughed suddenly. "Well, if we're doing confessions, I quit the country club, and I'm teaching ballet to underprivileged kids now." "My turn," Mom said, wiping her eyes. "I'm selling the house, your father's old studio. I'm turning it into an art school for children." "You're all insane," Sela announced, still taking pictures. "And it's absolutely perfect." Antonio cleared his throat. "The handlers need to start packing soon. Have you made your decision about Paris?" I looked at my family, really looked at them, at how far we'd come from that bitter reunion where this all started. The revenge I'd planned had transformed into something else entirely. "Send them this one," I said, gesturing to the new painting. "Tell them it's a package deal. Take it all or nothing, the journey and the destination. And if they say no, Then I'll find someone who understands that the best art tells the whole story, not just the angry parts. My mother hugged me suddenly, fiercely. Your father would be so proud. We all are, Damien added. Even if you did make me look like I was drowning in champagne, Callie said, but she was smiling. Selah captured the moment, all of us laughing, the new painting bearing witness to our transformation. The morning light streamed through the gallery windows, making the gold leaf in all the paintings shimmer like stars. Time to pack up, Antonio called softly. We stepped back, watching as the handlers began carefully wrapping each canvas. But they weren't just paintings anymore. They were markers of where we'd been, signposts pointing to where we were going. Ready? Selah asked, showing me the photos on her camera. I looked at the last shot, my family standing together, the new painting behind us, all of us smiling real smiles. Yeah, I said. I'm ready for whatever comes next. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's letting go of the need for it. Sometimes it's painting a new picture, one brush stroke at a time.